The first thing I'm going to show you is the nose. And if you're not sure about your proportions, here's a brief lesson. From the bottom of the chin to the top of the head, halfway is where human eyes should be. Standard eyes, kind of in that area. And then halfway from the eyes to the chin is where the bottom of the nose goes. And then halfway from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin, the bottom lip should kind of sit on top of that line. From your angle it may be hard to see, but you want to, from a straight down angle is where these proportions go. These kind of proportions are built on the idea of drawing a face from straight on. So for the nose, I'm going to start by building like a coil shape, or like a pear shape, or a teardrop. I'm going to kind of put that in that place and smear it down. And remember, the tip of the nose is going to be the furthest point out on the face. Smear all that down in there. And spend a little time figuring out what shape you want. One of my rules of thumb is to always have a picture in front of you for a different kind of nose. I'm just going to do a general nose, but for those kinds of details, you may want a picture, like, is my nose kind of hooked down? Is it kind of turned up? Is it really big on the tip? Those kinds of things are specific for each person. The placement and the length are kind of generalizations, but the width and the way it curves and stuff are specific for each person. Look at a profile picture from the side. Look at a straight-on picture. Those kinds of things, so that you can get all those details right. Then I'm going to add the nostrils, and a lot of times people who don't have experience, when they sculpt or draw a nose, they do 2 bumps, but we have to think about the nose as 3 bumps. The middle part, which forms up to the bridge of the nose, and then the 2 nostril flaps. So I'm going to make 2 little balls of clay. They should be the same size. This one's a little big. I'm going to kind of put them in place. Now you notice I'm not scoring or slipping this clay, and that's because it's wet clay and wet clay. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time scoring and slipping right now. If I was using wet clay on dry clay or dry clay on dry clay, I would definitely score and slip it. But since both clays are wet and I'm blending it in well, I'm not going to worry about scoring and slipping too much. You can see how those basic shapes I'm kind of using to build more complex shapes like the nose. And once I kind of have that shape in place, I can use this tool or another smaller tool and kind of dig out the nostrils. So I pick the nose a little bit. This tool might be a little big for this job. There's lots of different size tools. Size of this nose, I might be making the nostrils a little big. As this dries, I can kind of curve out here. Pay attention because everything's connected. This comes up to the brow from that point. These kind of come down to form those like smile lines around the nostrils that connect with the mouth, and the mouth shape will kind of change those lines. If I'm smiling, those lines might come way out here. If I'm like making like a long face, they may come down here because the corners of the mouth, those muscles are going to kind of pull those lines where they want to be. Like I told you in other videos, if you make sure that, if you wait for this to dry a little bit, you can kind of fine-tune the details a little more later, but try and get the general shape while it's still wet. Don't wait until it's dry to start adding clay if you need to, or shaping this, because it'll be a lot harder to play around with the sizes and the shapes to change this to how we want it to be. I'm going to add a little clay here for the smile line. Now this I don't want to leave that overlap. I'm going to blend all that down. It should go around the nose flap there. And you can come back in and kind of carve some of that out too. So then I've got the bottom of the chin here. If I have to, I can build that back out if it's too low. Now obviously if this is a beard, it should be up. So I might at this point want to kind of build that back out. I'm going to cut that off so that I can show you a little more like how the face should look. But when I do hair, I like to kind of have I like to use slabs because our hair kind of forms together in slabs. But maybe add a little bit of an edge to it. And sometimes just when you're cutting it, you'll get like a nice natural look. Try and make it inconsistent. Sometimes people do it like a shark's tooth or something and it looks too like mechanical. You want to make it have some kind of life to it, make it look a little more natural. And then when you're done, you can add texture to this. I like to add my texture after the clay is mostly dry. That way all those crumbs and those raised ridges kind of fall away. But you can kind of see already how if I shape some of this, it might have a little more natural look. And if I built it up, too, you could see that it would fall from his face, not be under his chin. Okay. Now I'm trying to leave this chin be a little smaller, but in a real face, this is a mask, so you don't see it as much. But in a real face, the jawline goes from the chin all the way up to the ears, and kind of tucks into the ears. And the chin should kind of connect with that idea. Here in the mask, I'm cheating it a little bit, and I'm giving him a really small pointy chin because I'm trying to exaggerate how goofy he is with this big nose and big ears and making him look a little more comical. Alright, so for the lips, remember I said halfway from the nose to the chin is that where the bottom lip sits, and I want to make sure that the top lip isn't stuck on there. It's a change of plane. So I'm going to kind of figure out where the center of my mouth is going to be, and I'll use this tool and I'll kind of dent that top lip in to the clay so that I have that above my lip, and then I'll have that plane be the lip. So I have 2 planes here, and I can smooth the corners later to make that shape. Then I'll roll a little coil to the bottom lip. And you'll be surprised how much a little bit of clay will make a big difference on this. So be careful how much clay you use on this part. If you use too much, either take some off or kind of blend it into the face around it. The bottom lip's a little more rounded and a little more sticking out. And those of you who do a lot of drawing or painting, you know that the bottom lip always looks light and the top lip always looks dark when lit normally. And that's because the lip sticks out on the bottom to catch the light, and the top lip kind of cuts in to catch the shadows. And this is just a generalization. Again, if you want to make a specific face or a look, you want to use a picture as a reference. I can kind of smear this clay up here to kind of form the corners of the mouth. Smear this clay down here. And remember what I said, a real subtle change is going to make a big difference in how the face looks. I want that dent right there, and that can kind of shape that top lip a little too. You can kind of build on that. Again, when the clay dries, a lot of that fine tuning can come in as long as you get everything in the right place and the right shape and the right amount of clay there. But don't wait to try and capture that expression, because that expression you won't be able to move this clay around. You'll have to add clay, which will cause you problems if you let it dry. So try and do the majority of the work now, come in and do the fine tuning after it's dried some. Okay? You can see I kind of captured that with just a little subtle smile He's smiling, he's not so sure of himself, he's kind of goofy, so it's like a reserved smile. Okay, and I kind of put it off to one side a little, like he's kind of like smirking, but I didn't like really push it to the next level. And again, when I see this, I want to keep making sure all the parts relate. Maybe I made my laugh line too far out there. I want to keep it a little closer to the smile. So I might have to add clay, capture that. Okay? Alright, that's kind of how to make the mask and some of the basic features of a human face. Check back in, see some of the other videos.